Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Mike, and in this video I want to quickly go over how to do a Phillips head screw with proper quad topology. Now I'm going to be using Blender, but if you're in Cinema 4D or any other 3D program, topology will be exactly the same. It's just your keyboard shortcuts might be a little bit different. So I'm just going to start out here by hitting Shift A and adding a circle. And I'm going to tab in edit mode here, and I'm going to fill this circle. Now the circle that I want here is going to be 16 sides. So make sure that when you create your circle, you make sure it has 16 vertices. So next up, I'm going to tab in edit mode and go to face select mode and hit I on the keyboard and inset this. So this is going to be my basis. So I could always add extra edge loops here if I need to add extra detail on the edges, and I'll use those as control loops, while also using this extra geometry to form the inside of the screw head. So first thing I'm going to do though is I'm actually going to delete all of these points, and I'm just going to be working with one quadrant. Reason being is I could add a mirror modifier that mirrors on the X and the Y, and so this will make it a lot easier. All I have to do is model a quarter of the screw head. So tabbing in edit mode once again, I'm just going to move these vertices into position. And what I could do here is the position of this vertice is 0, and then an a Y value and a Z value. I could just copy this Y value, select this point, and paste that Y value. And now I know that this is perfectly straight. And I could do the same here. But instead, we're doing the X value. So the other thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move this vertice down and this vertice to the right. And again, I could look at this and say, okay, this is in the X, so I'm going to copy this value, and I'm going to paste this in the negative Y. And so that way I know that the distance between these 2 points and the distance between these 2 points is exactly the same. So that's what I want. And I'm just going to, I can move that vertice later. So next up, I'm going to grab this point here, and I'm going to hit E on the keyboard to extrude this. And I'm going to set that into the absolute center of the composition by setting everything to 0. And selecting this point, I'm going to hit F on the keyboard to fill that. So now we have 2 edges. Next up, I'm actually going to subdivide this edge. So hitting 2 on the keyboard on both of these, I'm just going to right click and hit subdivide. This is going to give me 1 extra loop, which is very useful. And I'm going to extrude this up. And I'm going to extrude this to the right, or I'm sorry, to the left. And I'm going to do the exact same thing by copying these position values, so that way I know that these are perfectly straight. So now I could just select these 4 points, hit F on the keyboard to fill that, and the same here and fill that. Next, I could just grab these 2 points, and I could fill those as well, and I could right click and subdivide that and fill those points. So we're starting to kind of see this topology form, but we still are missing this edge as well as the internals here. So I guess we'll just address that. I'm going to hit E on the keyboard and make sure that this is in the X direction, and I'm going to copy and paste that into this. So now these lines are perfectly straight. And then with all of these points selected, I'm just going to hit F on the keyboard. And then with these 2 edges, I could right click, subdivide, and create faces and fill everything out. So now you could sort of start to see our Phillips head screw, our cross. And to make this a little bit easier when subdividing, it's going to be really important to inset this, as well as make sure all of these are all nice and even. So I'm just going to hit 1 on the keyboard. And I'm going to double tap G, and I'm just going to edge slide this loop just until it looks a little bit more even around the outside. And then the same thing here. And I could even do the same thing here, just so it feels like these edges are flowing a little bit more evenly. So now at this point, I can apply this mirror modifier, tab in edit mode, and hit 3 on the keyboard and select all of these faces, and hit I on the keyboard and add an inset. Now what this inset allows me to do now is have a control loop on the inside of this, I guess, T position. What it also allows me to do is create another edge loop here, which I could use to tighten up or loosen up different angles. So before I guess we do any of that, let's just grab these, I guess, faces and hit E on the keyboard and extrude down. So I'm just going to first extrude down just a little bit, and then I'm going to extrude down again, and then extrude down just a little bit. And let's, I guess, make this empty hidden, and then hit I on the keyboard to inset that again. So that way now, again, we have control loops running all around our object. Next up, I guess I'm just going to create the rest of this screw. So I'm just going to select this edge, bring that down, bring this down again. Again, I'm just extruding with E on the keyboard, and then add just a little tab. So this will completely be invisible. This will be under the ground. So we don't need to fill in this face, and we don't need to add any extra detail. But one thing I do want to do is I do want to add a few control loops to these edges. So that way, if I do add a subdivision surface modifier, we could sort of control the diameter just a bit on those curves. So to slide this, I'm just double tapping G. All right, so this looks pretty good. Let's go into rendered view. And this looks pretty good. Now let's go ahead and add a subdivision surface modifier to see what this will look like in its final version. And that again looks pretty good. Now, one of the things that you'll notice actually, if we open up the reference, for some reason, oh, it's not selectable. So you notice that this here is sharp and this is nice and curved. And we can achieve that by grabbing this edge loop here and double tapping G and dragging it up. And that will loosen up these while tightening up these. So I actually think that looks pretty good. We could right click auto smooth. And now all we have to do is add a new material that's metallic with a low roughness value. And, you know, obviously you can come in here and potentially, you know, modify how deep this goes. But as just a extra geometry added to your scene, this is adding a ton of extra geometry. And with auto smooth disabled, you could use the adaptive subdivisions, or you could just leave this at 0. And from far away, that actually looks pretty good. So anyways, guys, this is the proper topology to create a screw head. If you enjoyed this video, please give this video a like, subscribe. Let me know if you want to see anything in the future in proper quad topology. And anyways, guys, thanks for watching.